My name is Zoe and I've just finished reading Lottie Luna and The Twilight Party by Vivian French. I really enjoyed this book and I hope you will too. I really enjoyed the song on page 124. I also really like the look of the cake on chapter 11. Now Vivian French is going to talk to you about this book. I hope you enjoy her event.
Hi, I'm Vivian French and I'm going to be talking to you today about Lottie Luna, and I've got two books. I've got Lottie Luna and the Bloom Garden and Lottie Luna and the Twilight Party, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about how they came to be written, and we're going to have a look at the pictures and hopefully you can do some drawing as well. And I thought at the end it would be fun if you gave me some ideas for another Lottie Luna story. But just so that you know what it's about, I thought I'd begin by just reading you the first chapter. And there are some fabulous illustrations. If you look at the cover, that's Lottie, and she was drawn by Nathan Reed. And Nathan makes me laugh. I love the way that he draws. And there's Lottie with her stripy legs, and she's got a rather nice neckerchief, and I think it's little tiny skulls on it. And then there's all the different bits in the background. And when you open the book up, there's the front page and the title. And if you go a little bit further, there's a wonderful picture by Nathan, and that's the castle that Lottie lives in with her father and her mother and her brother. And Lottie has a bit of a problem. Lottie is a werewolf. She's a little werewolf, and she was born at the time of a lunar eclipse. And as a result, she's extra specially strong, very fast, and she has X-ray vision and super hearing. And she goes to school. She's had to move to a new school because her mum and her dad got made king and queen of the werewolves. And that's fine for them, but Lottie is not very happy about it because she's had to change schools, and also she just doesn't want to be special. Lottie wants to be an ordinary little girl. So this is the first chapter, chapter 1. Plop. King Lupo jumped and looked up at the ceiling. Water was oozing through a zigzag crack and splashing on his head. I did warn you, dear, said Queen Mila. If you will insist on sitting at the head of the table, you'll get dripped on. She passed the king a napkin, and he wiped his ears.
The king should always be kingly, he announced. I may not have been king for long, but I do know how to behave. A king is head of his people, so he should sit at the head of the table, drips or no drips. And talking about behaving, where is Lottie? She's late for breakfast.
I think she's getting ready, Queen Mila told him. Do remember, dear, it's her first day at her new school, so she's bound to be a little nervous.
Nervous? Why would she be nervous?
King Lupo dodged another drip and took a bite of his toast. Finding it was soggy, he made a face and put it back on his plate. Queen Mila sighed. You know how happy she was at her last school, dear. She had lots of friends and was popular with the teachers too. She doesn't know anyone at Shadow Academy. She's starting all over again.
But she's the daughter of a king now. Lupo raised his whiskery eyebrows. She'll find that she's treated with the greatest respect.
I don't think... Queen Mila had been about to say that she didn't think that would make any difference, but she was interrupted by the door being flung open with a crash, and Lottie appeared. She was clutching her school bag in one hand and a bunch of pencils in the other, which she waved wildly at her mother. Ma! I can't find my pencil sharpener anywhere. It's hopeless. Ever since we moved, everything's been upside down. Nothing's where it should be. And there are zillions of spiders in the bathroom. Do we have to live here? And there she is, bursting through the door. Boris, Lottie's older brother, stopped admiring himself in the cracked old mirror by the fireplace and joined in. But we're royalty now, Lottie. Pa's a king, and kings live in castles, even if they are a bit crumbly and falling down. Well said, Boris, my lad. King Lupo beamed at his son. Draycott Castle is our home. I'm sure once we've done a few repairs, we'll be extremely comfortable here. Now, Lottie, sit down and eat your breakfast. Humph! Lottie sighed thoughtfully as she remembered her old home. Although it had been small and cramped, it had been warm and very cosy. The castle they had inherited had so many rooms she couldn't count them all, and every single one was freezing cold. Not hungry, she said. Honestly, Pa, I couldn't eat a thing. She looked at her mother. Ma, do you think it'll be okay at Shadow Academy? It's awful being new in the middle of a term. Her mother hugged her. I'm sure you'll make lots of friends in no time at all. Huh. Boris looked down his nose. Who'd want to be friends with her? Not me. Lottie made a face of him, then stuffed her blunt pencils into her bag. I'll be off now, she said. I don't want to be late, not on my first day. See you later, darling Ma. Remember, I won't be back until after moonrise. Bye, Pa. And she whisked out of the dining hall, banging the door behind her. Jaws, her pet bat, was waiting for her on the other side, and together they hurried along the cold, dark corridor. With a heave and a tug, Lottie managed to open the creaking front door, and then they were out in the morning sunshine. So, that's the first chapter of Lottie Luna, except that it's not. There is actually another little bit to that chapter, but I thought I would save that until we get to the end of this video, and I'll read it to you then. But I thought it was time for a break, and I thought it might be fun to try and draw Lottie. And if I just move my cup, I've got a cup of tea here, and get the book. There she is, you can see her, and she's got stripy tights and a dress with a stripe on the bottom and boots and a neckerchief. And Nathan Reed, the amazing illustrator, has broken down all the way to ways that you can draw Lottie. And if you want to draw Lottie for yourself and you want to download his instructions, if you Google how to draw Lottie Luna, it'll come up, and then you can download it, and it gives you step-by-step instructions. And also there are some games and word searches that you can play as well. But I thought it might be fun just to have a look at what he suggests. And the first thing he suggests is, for the outline, think of drawing a pile of sand with a wide spade coming out of the top of it, which isn't kind of what you might think of if you're going to draw a little werewolf. So there is the pile of sand with a spade coming out of the top of it, and that's her head and her dress. So perhaps you could have a go at drawing that. The next thing to do is to add Lottie's hair and 2 large eyes, a pointed nose, and a curved line for her smile, because she does look very cheerful most of the time, and she has these very, very big eyes. The next thing to do is to sketch wavy lines to add arms, legs, and a tail shape. Add Lottie's eye details, whiskers, and werewolf fangs, because all werewolves have fangs. And in fact, I'll tell you a secret, that one of the Lottie Luna stories is going to be called Lottie Luna and the Fang Fairy. And you can imagine what that might be about. So anyway, here she is with her tail and her fangs, very, very tiny little fangs, and her eyes, and her curvy legs, and her long, long, long arms. Next thing to do is to draw Lottie's boots, hands, and werewolf ears. And Nathan says, see how they're all made up of curvy lines. Now, when I was drawing this, I didn't make my lines very curvy, so you'll probably do much better than I have here. So there she is. So there he is with her tail and her legs and her arms. And there you are. After that, what do? You add a scarf and hair, and well, we've done the hair, but this is the curl on the top of her head and the design on her dress. Now, you might want to change the design on her dress. Lottie always has a number 8, and we'll talk about that a bit more later. But you might want to alter that and give her some different clothes. So there she is. There she's with her. There we are. You add a number 8 and the curl on top of her head and her little neck scarf. A useful tip I found was to actually draw it first in pencil, because then when you needed to add the scarf, the dress didn't cut into it, because if I'd left it in ink, I would have had problems adding it on. So draw it first in pencil, and then you can go over it in pen later. And last of all, fill in the final details on her clothes, face and tail, and then colour in the dress and hair. And you can see that you can put stripy leggings, and you could put little skulls on her scarf, or you could give her a different scarf. So that's how to draw Lottie Luna. And there's the picture that I showed you here. She comes running in through the doorway, getting ready for school, and you can see how fast she's going and how useful those curvy arms are when you're trying to make her carry something. So now you've got your own Lottie Luna. How did the stories come to be written? Well, storybooks are put together by publishers, and the publishers of these books are called HarperCollins, and I have an editor, and you probably know this. An editor is just like your teacher, and my editor says the same things to me that I expect your editor says to you. Does your editor, your teacher, do they sometimes say, it's a little bit muddled? Or what Michelle sometimes says to me is, Viv, that's not very clear. And sometimes she says, Viv, I don't know what Lottie is thinking. Can you put in something that makes it clear what she's thinking about? And it's really very helpful. And I have to go back and do lots and lots of changes. So if you're writing a story at school and you have to change things, don't think you're the only one, because I'm doing lots of changes as well. One of the other things that the publishers did was that they chose a lot of the names. They chose the name Lottie Luna, and they also wanted her to live in Drakon Castle, and her father is called, as you may remember, called King Lupo, and I think I made up the Queen's name, Queen Mila. And she has 2 friends, her very best friends, are called Wilf and Marjorie. And when the publishers sent me a list of names, one of the names they had was Awful Audrey. And Awful Audrey was going to be the baddie, because books are so much more fun if you have a baddie in them. And actually, in this case, these stories, the baddie is quite mean. But I said, I'm sorry, but I absolutely can't write a story with Awful Audrey in it, because my granddaughter, my littlest granddaughter, is called Audrey, and I think she would be really upset if there were a whole load of stories about Awful Audrey. And they said, oh, fair enough, call her what you want. So I decided to call her Agatha Claus, because I thought that was a good name for a little werewolf. And so she gets called Awful Aggie for short. Now, as well as friends, Lottie's got a pet. Now, do you remember from when I read the story what her pet was? There's a clue. If you've forgotten, there's a clue on the front. And it's not a beetle or a bug or a ghost. Those are just things that Nathan's popped in. It's a bat. And her bat, do you remember his name? His name is Jaws. And he's really useful in the stories. If I want to get Lottie to send a message to her mum and dad, then I can send it via Jaws. And that is a really, really useful thing. So there's Lottie Luna, and that was drawing Lottie Luna. And now you've got your own picture of Lottie Luna, maybe you might like to write a story. And I had an idea that perhaps you might like to write a story to tell me why Lottie Luna always has the number 8 on the front of her dress. And I don't know. And I asked my editor why Nathan had drawn a number 8, and she didn't know. And I asked Nathan why he'd drawn a number 8, and I haven't heard back to see whether he has any ideas. So it's entirely up to you to make up a story about why Lottie Luna chose the number 8 to go on the front of her dress. And if you would like to make up that story, not more than 500 words, and you can put in lots of pictures of her as well, if you'd like. Now you know how to draw her. And if you could send them to, it's the Wigton Book Festival at gmail.com. So that's Wigtown Book Festival at gmail.com. And send me your pictures and story, and I'll have a look, and that's very exciting. And the very best ones, I'll send a copy of Lottie Luna and the Twilight Party and Lottie Luna and the Bloom Garden. And I shall look forward to getting those enormously. So that's a competition for you, and something that you can do after I've finished here. And now I thought maybe you might like a little walk around my workroom. So I don't know whether you can see behind me on the wall, there are some pictures. And those pictures, there's a tiger, and there's a giraffe, and there it's got a light on it a bit, but that's some ducks. And all the 3 of those pictures were drawn by Catherine Rayner, who's a brilliant author illustrator. And when I'm not writing, one of the other things I do is I teach at Edinburgh College of Art. And Catherine was one of my very, very first students. And I'm very proud of her and how well she's done. And I was very lucky because I think it might have been for my birthday. She gave me one of those pictures, and then she gave me another picture just because she's lovely. So if I pick this up like that, and I can take you for a little walk round. I've got a whole lot of other pictures as well. If you look at this wall here, can you see? It's absolutely covered in pictures by various different authors and illustrators. And if I swing back this way, not too fast, because it makes people feel a bit sick if you go too fast. There's Catherine's pictures, my hat stand, where I collect all my hats, and a picture by Simon James, another brilliant author illustrator. And can you see my bookshelves behind me? And my bookshelves go right up to the top. That's where I've got all my filing. And then all the way down to the bottom. There are all sorts of odd things stashed on the shelves. And those are all my books on those shelves, books that I've written. And it looks like an awful lot, but some of them are in different languages. So sometimes it's the same book, but in Russian or French or German or something like that. And just down here, let me see if I can find him. There he is. That's Oliver. Whoops, Oliver's not wanting to appear. There's Oliver, and Oliver is a puppet, and he comes from Oliver's Vegetables. So that's some of the things in my room. And people are always telling me that it's very messy, and it's true. It is. It's very messy indeed. So that back there. And do you remember I said that I would read you the rest of the chapter of Lottie Luna? So I think maybe I should do that now. So here we go. This is the end of the first chapter. As Lottie ran down the long winding path that led from Draycott Castle to the village below, she was already worrying about the day ahead. It's all very well, Ma saying I'll make friends, Jaws, but what if I don't? They'll probably hate me because Pa's the new king, and they'll think I'm all posh and stuck up when I'm not. But an idea popped into her head, and she stopped to think about it. What if I don't tell anyone I live in a castle, or that Pa's a king? I'll say I'm plain Lottie Luna, and that I'm really rather ordinary, just like everyone else. Liking the idea, she walked slowly on. But what about my superpowers? Can I hide them too? She touched the little moonstone necklace that she always wore, and then, with a decisive nod, tucked it under her jumper. There, it's gone. And with a skip and a jump, she was on her way. If anyone had watched Lottie running along, they would have easily guessed that she wasn't the ordinary little werewolf that she so badly wanted to be. Born on the night of a lunar eclipse, when the moon was full, she had been gifted with special powers. She could run like the wind, her eyesight was as sharp as an eagle's, and she was far stronger than her older brother. She had other, less obvious powers too. The little moonstone necklace she had been given on the day she was born reflected her moods. Now as she ran, it was glowing pure white beneath her jumper. Jaws, flying above her head, was aware of it, and that made him happy too. He looped a loop, then swooped down to ride on Lottie's shoulder. 20 minutes later, Lottie and Jaws reached the gates of Shadow Academy. Oh dear. Lottie was wide-eyed as she looked at the huge grey stone building in front of her. I do hope it's going to be all right. What do you think, Jaws? Jaws fluttered round her head. Eek! He squeaked. Eek! You're right. Lottie took a firmer hold of her school bag. I'm Lottie Luna, and I'm not scared of anything. And with her head held high, she marched up the steps and in through the wide-open front door. So that's the first chapter. And Lottie goes to the school and she discovers that she makes her new friends, and she discovers that they have an evening howl, which happens in the Great Hall. Quickly, they walk down corridor after corridor and into the Great Hall. Lottie gasped. She had never seen anything quite like it. The ceiling was painted with swirling clouds and silver stars, with mauls of midnight blue. There were no windows, and the hall was lit entirely by tiny sparkly lights. Soft music was playing, and Lottie was sure she could hear the distant sound of owls hooting. It's beautiful, she howled. And when they all get together for the evening howl, they all have to howl together. And at the beginning of Lottie Luna and the Twilight Party, I had rather fun because I thought I'd take the idea of howling. And I thought, if you had a pop concert for little werewolves or big werewolves, what kind of songs would they sing? So this story begins, when the moon is blue, then we're all blue too, and we'll all howl together with a wowly wowly woo. So I had a lot of fun with that one as well. So I hope you enjoy the Lottie Luna stories, and I hope you maybe read them. You can get them, either you can buy them or you can go to your local library. And libraries are wonderful places because you can borrow as many books, well, not as many books as you like, but quite a lot of books at once, and you don't have to pay. And that's great. So that's Lottie Luna, and I'm Vivian French, and I'm saying goodbye, and I'm looking forward very much to reading your stories. So bye.